Hi, I'm Glaetzer from Matolo Wines. Today we're going to have a bit of a look through the 2008 Matolo Jester Rosé and then a few of the other Matolo products as well from the 2007 vintage. This is our first online recorded tasting, so let's see how it goes. 2008 Jester Rosé. 2008 really lent itself to making some really lovely, crisp, fresh rosé styles, very aromatic. Now the rosé that we make at Matolo is made out of Sangiovese, which is a very fleshy Italian grape variety. It really does lend itself to making a rosé style. It's very fragrant, it's got lovely texture and very good natural acidity. You can also see that sort of lovely rosé colour that we get out of the wine as well. 2008, as I said, was sort of slightly warm, which really did give some lovely aromatic profile. So the 08 Jester Rosé has a really intense, almost strawberry-like lift on the nose. And the palate has some lovely depth to it. Finishes bone dry, which is a style that we're really looking for. But it has that sort of hint of fruit sweetness from the Sangiovese. So for us, it's one of the best that we think we've made. We're going to jump to 2007, the range of Matolo Reds, starting with Jester Shiraz. 2007 was a vintage in McLaren Vale that wasn't as hot as 2008. We had a nice mild growing season. We had wines with pretty good intensity, and you can see here, and you'll see through the rest of the wines as well, very good colour intensity as well as flavour profile. The Jester Shiraz, for us, we're really looking at trying to express that lovely pure fruit you can get from the Wollonga sub-district of McLaren Vale, which is where all our Matolo vineyards are. Lovely sort of plummy stone fruit nose with just a hint of spice there as well, which creates this lovely aromatic. And the palate really displays the hallmarks of what we're looking at for Jester, which is a wine that has lovely textured fruit, but also finishes with a very savoury finish. None of these wines are made to be the big, bold Aussie style. We make them very much to be wines that have texture and finesse, as well as being generous in displaying what we call the essence of the origin of our fruit. They really display the flavours that I taste in the vineyard. Then we'll move to Jester Cabernet. Again, from the same vineyards in Wollonga. Jester Cabernet, the point of difference here with the Jester Cabernet is that we're actually using, depending on the vintage, between 20% and 30% of Amarone style material. Now that sounds a bit confusing, but the Serpico, which is our flagship Cabernet, we actually hand harvest the grapes. We dry the grapes out for between 7 and 10 weeks on drying racks, in a similar sort of tradition to the Valpolicella styles of Amarone. What this does is actually intensifies the palate and creates this nice sort of savoury texture that I mentioned we're looking for. I blend about 20 to 30% of that back, that material that's been dried out, back into the Jester Cabernet to really highlight this sort of full palate, but also this lovely savoury tannin that we're sort of striving for. So the nose has just that hint of raisin character, just a tiny hint. And there's a lovely blackcurrant cassis-like fruit on the nose. So it's a really lovely textured food wine. We then jump to the 2007 Riva, which is the only Barossa wine in the portfolio. And it's from a vineyard that Frank and I have known for quite some time. And most of the wine I make is in the Barossa Valley. And this particular vineyard has always sort of lent itself to that Matolo style that we're looking for, which, as I've mentioned before, is that sort of nice savoury profile. It comes from an area called Greenock, which is slightly higher elevation than the rest of the Barossa Valley, only by about 40 metres, so it's nothing major, but in regards to the structure and the finesse of the wine, it really adds that bit of high altitude lift. So the 07 in the Barossa Valley, 2007 was a vintage that was very, very small yields. We had quite a few frosts, so the crop was minuscule. The challenge in 2007 with the Riva was to maintain that balance that Riva has become renowned for, because the fruit was just that concentrated that it would have been pretty easy to turn it into a big concentrated mess, but we very much wanted to have the style and finesse that Riva's had in the past, which I think we've done. It's a really nice, well-rounded wine with A very good skeleton, a very good backbone. Will certainly age very well. It'll be probably one of the best aging Reavers I think that we've made. Really good savoury texture. We then jump to GAM Shiraz. JM stands for Frank's three kids, Gemma, Alex and Marco. It's McLaren Vale Shiraz. Again, it's 2007. McLaren Vale often doesn't suffer the weather extremes that places like the Barossa Valley can, because it's right on the coast, so it has more of a maritime influence, which means we know in McLaren Vale our nighttime temperatures aren't as cold as, let's say, the Barossa Valley, and also the daytime temperatures aren't as warm. So it means from McLaren Valley you generally get this sort of more broad stone fruit characteristic, whereas in the Barossa Valley you often have more of that leathery, tarry characteristic. Both very attractive characteristics, but both really highlighting the origin. GAM07, again, that sort of lovely floral aromatics. You can see sort of parts of the jester profile in GAM, but then it has this extra depth and level of complexity. Palate-wise, it has again this sort of hallmark savouriness, with some very rich, rounded tannin and some lovely, almost judy-like fruit. It really has settled down. It hasn't been bottled for all that long, but it's really settled down nicely. We then jump to the flagship Shiraz, which is Savitar. Now Savitar in history is like a mythical dragon-like monster. Now you probably think with a name like that, the wine is going to be big, broad and over the top. It's quite the opposite in fact. We've really made it quite restrained, balanced and elegant. The difference between GAM and Savitar, given they come off the same vineyard, is essentially just the soil type differences. GAM comes off quite sandy soils, very free draining. There's quite a bit of clay there as well though, so some areas of the vineyard have quite a bit of good water holding capacity. Savitar comes from areas that are again sandy but lots of rock, so very free draining, no water holding capacity, and the vines really have to struggle to produce the fruit, which means you have this sort of greater intensity and probably a more stark tannin profile in the young wine. In regards to aromatics, it's a bit more restrained than GAM at this stage, really quite a brooding style. And palate-wise, again, it's showing the sort of element of brooding, whereas GAM is sort of upfront and generous. Savitar is sort of sitting back a little bit. We'll take an extra 2, 3, 4 years longer than GAM to really start to flesh out and show its true colours. We then have Serpico, which is the second Cabernet in the Rotolo range. Serpico is 100% Cabernet, and as mentioned before, it's 100% Amarone style. So we actually hand harvest the grapes. We dry them for 7 to 10 weeks on 10 kilogram drying racks, and that really just intensifies the flavour profile. A lot of McLaren Vale Cabernet can be what I call scalloped in the mid palate. It starts well, it has sort of a hollow mid palate, and then finishes with some nice tannin. This drying process helps to sort of fill the tannin profile out and makes the wine a lot more seamless, let's say. The aromatics are interesting. It's not a typical Cabernet nose. Now we're not looking for that stewy, porty characteristic that you can get from Amarone, and we're not looking for residual sugar. We're very much looking for some lift and spice, and again, the sort of tannin profile is pretty much the most important thing. Yeah. So it's a wine that really has some lovely depth to it as well. It does have generosity, but it also has the element of restraint. Basically, the 6 wines we had from 2007, I think I'm probably a bit biased making all the wines, but I think it's a really good display of what we can do from Barossa Valley, but also in McLaren Vale. The wines do have depth. They do really highlight the 2007 vintage. And the 08 Rosé just gives a nice lead in to what to expect from 2008 vintage when we released the top end reds as well. So any questions, get on the website or drop either Frank or myself an email, and we're happy to sort of chat you through. But hopefully that's a good insight and a bit of a good introduction to the tasting notes of the 2008 and 2007 Rotolo wines. Enjoy.